Well, it's the weekend of the Australian Grand Prix, which it only makes sense that Daniel Ricciardo is in the news, and you better believe he is, with him talking to some reporters and talking about, well, he still has an itch and still has that drive, excuse the pun, to be in Formula One. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of reading quotes here, but here's what Daniel Ricciardo has to say. He says, "The signs are pointing towards getting back on the grid. I feel like that's where I'm tracking in my head, and a few of the habits that I'm having or doing is pointing towards that. I've only been a few months, quote, out of F1, but I think some itches have been scratched, so to speak. I've actually weirdly found that the days I've had no schedule are the days where I've actually done training and I've done things like I would before." Now, I ran cross country and track in high school and college, so I kind of know the feeling of maybe you're not racing a certain week, but you look at everyone, your team who is racing, and you think, man, I would kill to be out there. So I think that's exactly what Ricciardo's feeling. I think it's good he took a step back to maybe realize what he was missing, since that drive seems to have gone away and just wasn't as present with, showing the lack of performance times. I want to hear what you think. Do you think Daniel Ricciardo will join back in 2024, or is he's done, he's not getting back into Formula One racing ever from now on, and he'll just kind of be the reserve driver or be part of a team? Now, here's the thing. If Ricciardo is to come back in 2024, which he's kind of hints that he wants to, he did say that he would want to be part of a top team, which who doesn't want to be part of a top team? The top teams, when you think of them, are Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and even kind of Aston Martin is making their way into that, but we already know one of those seats, Stroll, is secured, so that only leaves one Aston Martin seat. And I don't see any of those top teams really switching their driver lineup. I mean, Red Bull, I don't think Ricciardo's going to be able to, shake it and compete with Max or even outcompete Checo. I think that Ferrari is pretty happy with their drivers, and I don't think they're going to take a risk on someone coming back like Ricciardo. Obviously, Mercedes just signed George for a multi-year contract, and Hamilton has said that he's wanted to stay with Mercedes until the end of his days. So I think if he does join, he'll have to join with a lower tier team, which, look, that's not a bad thing, as maybe he gets into one of those worst teams, but is really able to get the most out of the car, which in turn will prove that, look, he still has some dog in him, he's still in for the fight, which will prove to a top tier team that he's worth the risk. On to this point of him wanting to join a top team, he also says, "So to go back and try and put myself in just any seat or something that's fighting at best for a top 10 finish, I don't think that's going to bring the best out of me. So yeah, I see myself, at least in my head, wanting to get back on the grid, but there's still some terms and conditions, so to speak," meaning that, he's kind of only going to hold out for the top tier teams. Now, maybe a top tier team wouldn't only take him because of the driver ability that they think he possesses, but also because he brings a lot of fans and I'm sure a lot of money and sponsors backing him. So that's another thing to consider. It's also important to note that, they say he hasn't really reached out to any teams yet with interest for 2024. He said he's going to kind of sit on it until maybe June or July, and then he'll kind of see where he's at in his stage of life and think, okay, I want to go back, or maybe I want to stay where I'm at now, or even get further removed. So, look, I'd love to see Ricciardo back on the grid, and I want him to do well. I just don't know if I see that happening. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And if you think you'll see Daniel Ricciardo racing in a Formula One car again. Thanks for watching. Catch you next video.